Today, we're diving into two absolutely incredible stories. They're all about what happens when a person's faith gets pushed to the absolute limit. It's about facing that ultimate test, that moment when it feels like you have nothing left to lose. So let's just start with this one big question, right? When everything you have is stripped away, your food, your safety, your freedom, what's really left? What truly defines you in that moment? This question, well, it's at the very heart of the two stories we're looking at today.
All right, so we're looking at two very different men from completely different times. On one hand, you've got Abu Zulekha. He's a simple, poor father, and his test is this deeply personal internal struggle. And on the other hand, we have Prophet Daniel, whose whole life is basically one big public showdown against a tyrant. Their situations are worlds apart, but you're going to see that their trials of faith, they're remarkably similar.
Both of these men were pushed right to the edge, to a moment of absolute desperation. So in this first part, we're going to look at the unbelievable pressure each of them was under. The kind of test that really forges a person's soul.
Okay, just try to picture this. It's the holy month of Ramadan in Mecca, and Abu Zulekha and his entire family haven't had a single bite to eat for 3 days. 3 days! His wife, his daughters, they're weak from hunger, and he, as a father, feels completely and utterly helpless. This is so much more than just physical hunger. It's a profound spiritual crisis.
Now let's switch gears to Prophet Daniel's story. For him, the danger wasn't something that just showed up one day. No, from the moment he was born, his life was on the line. The king of Babylon, terrified of some prophecy, ordered every single newborn Israelite boy to be killed. For Daniel, this test wasn't just a moment in time, it was the very air he breathed.
So how in the world does someone endure situations that seem just impossible? This next section is all about the idea of Sabr. Now, you could translate that as patience, but it's so much more than just waiting around. It's about enduring hardship with real strength and holding on to who you are when every fiber of your being is screaming at you to just give up.
What's so amazing about Prophet Daniel's story is that his trial wasn't just one thing. It was his entire life. As a baby, he was left in a jungle just to escape being killed, and he was raised by a lioness. Then as a young man, he was captured and taken to Babylon. In the king's court, he was constantly pressured to abandon his beliefs. And finally, as an adult, he faced a death sentence for doing something as simple as praying.
For Abu Zulekha, the trial was so much more immediate, so much more personal. It's all right there in his wife's desperate words. This wasn't some distant king trying to kill him. It was the gut-wrenching sight of his own children suffering right in front of him. What could possibly be a more painful test for a parent? And then, right in this moment of total despair, something happens. A solution just seems to appear out of thin air. Abu Zulekha finds a silk bag, and it's stuffed with gold coins. On the surface, this looks like a miracle, right? An answer to his prayers. But as we're about to see, this is actually where his real test begins.
This is the turning point. Look, it's pretty easy to have principles when you're comfortable and everything's going well. The real question, the one that matters is, who are you when you're desperate? This is that moment where both of these men have to make a choice that is going to define them forever.
So everything hinges on this right here, this little thought inside his head. Abu Zulekha could so easily have just taken the money. Who would know? His family would be saved. But his faith, his integrity, it's telling him something completely different. He doesn't see it as a gift from the heavens. He sees it as a trust, as something lost that belongs to somebody else.
And this really shows you the key difference in their trials. Abu Zulekha's battle was completely silent, fought entirely inside his own mind, a war between his family's survival and his moral code. Prophet Daniel's fight, it was public. He had to stand up, out in the open, and choose between the law of a man and the law of God, with his life hanging in the balance. Just look at how deliberate this is. The king, tricked by his jealous advisors, makes it illegal to pray to God. So what does Daniel do? Does he hide in a closet? No. He goes to his room, he throws open the window that faces Jerusalem so everyone can see him, and he prays. He absolutely refuses to let fear get in the way of his faith.
So, what happens when you hold on to your principles, even when you're facing death or starvation? Both of our stories now turn towards their endings, and they show how these incredible displays of faith and patience are, in the end, answered.
For his defiance, Prophet Daniel's punishment is to be thrown into a pit. But we're not talking about just any pit.
This is a den filled with lions that have been intentionally starved to make them as vicious as possible. It was meant to be a sure thing, a gruesome, terrifying death sentence.
Even the king, who secretly respected Daniel, calls out in despair, wondering aloud if the God that Daniel served so faithfully would actually show up and save him. The entire kingdom just holds its breath.
And the answer is a flat-out miracle. God sends an angel to literally shut the mouths of the lions. The very animals that were supposed to be his executioners become his protectors. They just lie down peacefully all around him. The power of the king was nothing compared to the power of God.
Now, while Daniel faced a den of lions, Abu Zulekha was facing a totally different kind of beast, temptation. Let's get back to his story. This number, 1,000, represents the 1,000 gold coins in that bag. A fortune, enough money to end his family's suffering for good. And yet he made the choice to return every last one. And here is where the story has this incredible twist. When Abu Zulekha finds the owner to give the bag back, the man tells him the truth. His father had left instructions in his will. Find the most trustworthy, most pious poor man in all of Mecca and give him this bag of 1,000 gold coins. The test was the reward. That money was always meant for him, but only because he proved he was worthy of it.
So what are we supposed to take away from these amazing accounts? I mean, they aren't just stories from long ago. They're packed with these deep lessons about who we are as people, and they are just as relevant today. So let's break them down.
These 4 virtues, they're really the backbone of both stories. You see Sabr, or patience, in enduring starvation and a lifetime of persecution. You see Imandai, or integrity, in Abu Zulekha's quiet, lonely battle with temptation. You see Tawakkul, complete trust in a higher plan, in Daniel's defiant open prayer. And of course, you see the sacrifice of immediate comfort for a much greater spiritual reward.
At the end of the day, here's what it all boils down to. Anyone can suffer, right? Anyone can face a tough time. But the real measure of a person is whether they can walk through that fire and come out on the other side with their integrity, their character, and their faith still in one piece. That's the real lesson here.
And that brings us right back to where we started, but this time I'm turning the question over to you. Now, these stories are obviously extreme, but we all face tests of our character, big and small. So think about it. What has been your greatest test of faith? It's a powerful thing to reflect on. Thanks for listening.